All right, guys. Rodrigo here and Nolan here. Today is really... Are we rolling? We're live?
Yeah, we should be.
Okay. So, as I was saying, everybody, super exciting episode. Today, Nolan and I are sitting down together to talk about goal setting. If you guys don't know, Nolan is the mastermind behind everything that happens, who allows this podcast to get produced, distributed, and everything has to do on the website and all the behind the scenes. So thanks for stepping in front of the camera today, man.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited. I think this is a topic that we both like, and it's always a big conversation point for us at this time of year. And so you're a big advocate of it, perhaps more than I am, as far as the micro and the macro relations of goal setting. And so
that is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
To clear, yeah, goal setting.
So I'm just excited to, I guess, share our thoughts on this.
Yeah, I think it's, we've been working together long enough that you know that I've definitely had some like evolutions around goal setting, right? As far as how, well, let me back up. Goal setting is a skill, yes or no?
See, this is kind of our second take recording this episode in the beginning because we had some technical difficulties. And we had this conversation on the first take, and I see your point, but I still don't know if I agree. I feel like there's a word that I just can't think of, is why I feel like it's not, maybe why I don't relate to it as a skill.
So yeah, if you don't know, I'm a big advocate that goal setting is a skill, and it's to be a skill that needs to be developed and fostered. I strongly believe that. I think for me it's been super foundational for getting my life on the right track.
Yeah, but is it a skill or is it a tool?
It's both, right? Like I don't think that makes it mutually exclusive. The reason I think it's a skill is because you can get better at goal setting, and the better you get, the better results you have.
But that comes down to like the buzzword self-awareness. Like you don't get better at goal setting; you just get better at.
I think you do get better at goal setting, right? If you become a better writer, then you're going to have better written content.
Right.
If you become a better biker, then you will look better on a bike or whatever.
But what are you saying? If you become a better goal setter, then
you'll have a better chance of pushing yourself in a way to achieve things that you're wanting to achieve. Like,
okay.
Because I think part of it for me, goal setting, a lot of it is breaking things down, right? So it's like, hey, I want X real estate show. Let's talk about, hey, I want to buy a house. Okay, well, if that's your goal and you know how to set it and how to set it up, then you're able to break down what to do to get to that goal. And you understand like timing and steps to make that happen.
Right. But I feel like from my point of view, and this is just how I look at it, it's like, okay, I'm going to set a goal of doing X. So, like, relating back to buying a house, it's like, okay, I want to buy a house this year.
Yeah.
What do I need to do to buy that house? Like, if it's an investment property, I then need to talk to so many agents or look at so many houses.
Right.
And I'm going to get really good at, like, looking to houses or talking to people or making cold calls or whatever it is. And then I almost relate, like, your progress to that action rather than back to, like, the goal setting part.
But you're tracking something and you're measuring it, and it's not in a chasm. So you have set a goal.
No, I agree. Yeah, there's no debate about that.
But, I mean, if you've never bought a house and you say, like, I'm going to buy 500 houses this year, is that a good goal? Like, you can still, like, break it down and do all the things, right? But, like, and I think that's the big thing where my evolution on this has gone a lot, is going from, Grant Cardone's 10X goal setting concept of, well, it doesn't matter if you hit your goal or not. As if you have a big enough goal and you fall short, you're still going to be better off. Versus, the compound effect concept of set the goal of incremental, consistent change over a long period of time, and you're going to get to where you want to go. We've talked about this a lot because we work together. So we talk at the end of the year. It's like, okay, what are goals for next year? Revenue goals, production goals, etc. And if we've put a goal out there that's not very realistic or we don't hit consistently, what has that done for the psyche?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think we're
And I think
maybe
that's why it's a skill,
maybe
right?
I'm just like arguing over like little discrepancies in like my point of view on things. So I'd be curious for anyone's feedback on what they think is goal setting a skill. And it's not that I disagree. I just don't feel like it doesn't sit right with me, and I don't know why. I just feel like
I think, and again, we're beating this a little bit, going in circles on this, but I'll say the last thing on whether it's a skill or not is I know over the years I've set better goals that are consistently a combination of like good stretch goals versus good achievable goals. And when you consistently start hitting your goals, then it fuels so many things that are positive. And at least for me, and I think that that's a very much personal thing. Like some people are going to thrive under these unreachable huge goals and they don't care whether they hit them or not because that goal is going to drive them, versus some people need to have something tangible that they can like check off that list, like I did that. And I fall a little bit more into that category. Like I want to feel like I'm hitting the goals but still have like a big carrot to chase.
Yeah.
So let's talk about goal setting in general. Like what's been your experience with it, working together in your own life? Has it been a good thing, bad thing?
I think it's always a good thing because it's like, I don't know, I think in my age, like I'm 21 and a lot of people are like, well, I don't know where I want to go or what I want to do or be. It's like, well, I've given that a lot of thought, and I think, well, the best way to figure out where you want to go is to figure out where you are, and then you can kind of figure that out, and then use goals to like get there. And I think that's something I've learned from you, is that you don't have to have just like one big goal. You can have like little goals every day, month, week, whatever, that build up and build on to those and make progress towards like your big, year goal or 5-year or whatever.
Yeah, I think you can get as granular as you want as far as time frames of the goals. But yeah, let's bring this into work. We work together and on the goal settings for work stuff. What has been your experience? Like, because we have predominantly on our end had goals that are stretch goals that we haven't hit from just like working together in the business. How does that feel from being part of an organization that sets like a lofty goal and then it doesn't hit?
I guess it depends on some of them. Like, I believe in it, I'm behind, but then like you set one for Q4 and I was just like, I mean, you can write it down, but I don't, there's no way that's going to happen. Like, I don't see how that's going to happen. And like, I don't know, maybe I should have said something then. I mean, we talked about this a couple weeks ago.
Should have said something then, yes.
I was like, you never know. I mean, nothing I'm going to do is really going to change as far as like, I don't know. I just...
But again, I think that's why it's important to be conscious of how and when and who you're setting goals with, right? Because we've had goals that we set this year as well that were like kind of stretch goals, but we hit them, right?
Right.
And they fueled a lot of amazing things that we've been able to accomplish together,
yeah, well,
right?
I think that's why, like, I kind of, like, raised my eyebrows at, like, our Q4 goal. I was like, well, I mean, we've done pretty good at everything else we set to do this year. So, like, just maybe I'm not super confident doesn't mean, like, it won't happen.
Right. And I think, and so when we're recording this, maybe we should have waited one more day to record it, but this is what, the 18th, right? Today's the 18th. Yeah. So we're recording this December 18th. Tomorrow, the 19th, we're breaking away, the two of us and Carolina, who works with us, to do strategic planning for 2020 and just kind of break it down as much as possible. And I'm really excited about that because I think there's been a lot that I've personally learned this year about goal setting and like how to set these standards for us as like a team to work through things that I think if we implement them well, we'll be able to hit, our goals in a much more efficient and effective way than we had this year or even years past especially.
No, I agree. And you've always been a huge proponent of goal setting, which is something that's rubbed off on me just from being around you. Because it's like, oh, dude, what are your goals for this month? What are your goals for this quarter? And like I've always like, I've had goals, but they've always been like big, like year goals. Like, okay, this is what I want to do this year. Yeah. And they usually end up taking me like 18 months instead of, 12. Yeah. But, and then you're like, well, I get that you have these year goals, but like, what about this quarter? Like, what about today? And you really, I think you're a big proponent of like breaking them down on like a smaller level and just having, maybe they're not related to your big goals, but you like having other stuff that you like to accomplish. On a smaller scale.
I think that's kind of always been my struggle, has been having too many things without having enough focus on some of them as well. And I think it's been it's a balancing point. Like I forget even what book it is, but I think this somebody's like, if you have more than 3 goals, you have none. Essentially, it's that whole concept of.
Are they saying that you need to have more than 3?
No, if you 3 or less.
Oh, okay.
So the thought process. I wish I could remember what book that's from.
I don't have any idea.
Is basically if you have too many goals, then you're not going to be able to focus on any of them, and so you won't achieve any of them. And I think I definitely subscribe to that. I've always tried to whittle down as much as possible, and like I use the the full focus planner. And I mean, you use the power list, right? And so, and it's minimize everything into like 3 to 5 things is usually what most like planners and goal setting things talk about. It's like, it's 3 to 5 things, 3 to 5 things. If you go outside of that, then it's too much to like wrap your head around. There's too many steps to get to what the big picture is. Have you been able to use goals, like maybe you're able to share an example to like hit some specific metrics for yourself in the last 2-3 years? Where you're like, wow, I don't know if I would have done that without like consciously setting goals and like thinking things through.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the biggest one would be I wanted to buy. I'm trying to think about what my actual like goal that I would write down was. Oh yeah, I wanted to have like 2 units before like the end of 2017 or before I was 20. It was something like that, or more than one rental. I forget what it was. Mm-hmm. And so maybe it was just 1 rental and I ended up with 2.
Yeah.
I don't remember. This is kind of but I ended up doing that. I bought my first rental at the end of 2017, December 6th to be exact. Yeah. And it ended up being like a small multifamily property.
Yeah.
And that's.
But do you think you would have made that purchase or pushed for that to have happened without goal setting?
Well, no, because like I don't.
No. So how did the goal setting, like let's break that down, I guess. Why did the goal setting make a difference there versus whether if you wouldn't have had it?
I almost feel like it's something to hold yourself accountable with.
And how were you doing that?
I don't know. I think probably a couple different things. Like probably just talking to you and like, saying like what your ambitions are, and then also like writing it down. And I've heard this from a bunch of people. It's like the best way to build confidence is to keep the promises you make to yourself. Mm-hmm. And so it's like if you tell yourself you're going to do something, like I don't want to go backwards. Plus, like at that point, I feel like I had a lot more experience than if I didn't. Mm-hmm. Or I wasn't already in real estate. Like if I just was like, all right, I'm just going to break into this and buy like my first thing this year.
Right.
I was already in it for a year and a half too. And so I had a lot more knowledge and experience. And I think I kind of lost what the question was, but.
Well, it was basically like, how did goal setting help you get there? And I think that's what you said is, right? It's that constant reminder. I heard this quote, I think it was yesterday, but it's from The Alchemist, which I don't know if you've read it or not. I think you said you haven't. You need to read it.
I haven't, yeah. I want to go back to your question. The biggest thing is like, I have really big goals, and so in order to like hit those really big goals, you have to hit the small ones.
Right.
And so it's like, if I want to own 10,000 doors, I got to start with one.
Right.
So it's like, I have to get that first one under my belt is probably a lot of what was driving me as well.
Mm-hmm. But it's knowing that, right?
Yeah.
And being able to actually clearly define what it is that you're wanting, because I think that for me it makes a big deal. And so The Alchemist says it's like it's paraphrasing, but it's basically like if you tell the universe what you want, then the universe will conspire to help you get it.
Well, that's kind of like the law of attraction. I'm not talking about The Secret because I haven't read that, but there's one about this guy named like Michael something, and it's very much just like the frequency that you're vibrating at attracts other things when you put it out there and kind of like the universe.
So 2020 is right around the corner. I'm not sure when this is going to get released. It's kind of balls in your court for that anyways. But when you're thinking about 2020 and looking back on 2019, how do you feel that you did goal setting wise? Is there anything you're going to do differently for moving into the new year?
My problem with this year is I sacrificed some of my other goals to accomplish others, which were arguably more important. It was just
Can you give an example of that?
I mean, yeah. So
if you're comfortable.
No, okay. So I wanted to save a little bit more money this year But then I was also going through a rehab in one of the rentals that I was just talking about. And so it was like, well, I just completely, just put everything I had and more into just getting this project done because it went way over budget and way over time by like double. And so, yeah, but it was like, it was the more important goal was to get that unit fixed so it could start, and rent it out. And so, and I was okay. I was just like, okay, well, if I, at the beginning of the year, if at the end of the year, if I can accomplish like this list of things and it's more than 3, then, that would be a great year. But then also it's like you have higher priorities than ones or the others, I think. And so that's just what happened.
Yeah, and that's a really good example, right? Where those goals, you'd have to, like, almost the stars would have to align perfectly to have them both come to fruition. And then you knew ahead of time which one was more important. So when you had to make a decision, you were able to make it. I think it's a perfect example of why goal setting can be really valuable because it helps predetermine decisions. So like themes and things like that. So like this year, as you've heard me, is like my goal is to not buy any rentals and really just focus on building the business, systemizing processes. And I think right? Past
that
behavior.
Happened, right?
Yeah, like I mean, if you look at 2018 versus 2019, like how we've operated and switched has been a total night and day difference, and dictated a lot of decisions. Even though there's some houses with like really good terms or whatever that typically would have been closed on for sure. What about 2020? How do you view that? And anything that you want to put on the record from a goal?
How do I view 2020?
Yeah, from a goal setting perspective, like.
I view it as strong. I mean, what do you?
No. Well, so put it to you this way. So 2019, you had some goals. You shifted around. You kind of prioritized it. So you're going into 2020. How do you view that? Is anything changed around goal setting and the way you're setting goals for 2020?
Well, I think
based on your experience from this year.
Well, like I checked goals off my list for 2019. So now I'm going to add new goals to that list. But also like the ones that I didn't check off, I'm going to wrap them back around and throw them in 2020.
But how you approach achieving those goals, is there anything, is it kind of comparable process, or is there anything that you're like, oh, I'm going to do this a little differently to like try to tweak those results?
I don't think so. I think the things I would do different is like my actions, and it's like not so much about my goal setting.
Yeah.
Like I'm probably pretty ambitious with my goals. I think it's just like my actions. Like, okay, like I tried this didn't get me there. So now I'm going to like, pivot a little bit and go down this route and just try and grow and make things bigger. I guess is how I approach it.
Yeah.
Is more like, I don't know, a lot of my goals are income based, I think, just because I'm like, younger, I'm trying to like not struggle. So.
No, understood. I think on my end, it's my goal going into this year as far as trying to organize things has been to do a better job of getting a little bit more detail oriented on what I'm stating. As far as
stating what on your
goals?
goals?
On a goal, yeah.
Okay.
And so one thing that we'll talk about this tomorrow is having pretty much going ahead of time, breaking down a little bit of an action plan on a quarter by quarter basis. Like if you have 4 goals or 3 goals, maybe like, okay, Q1 and Q2 is only about goal 1. And these are the things that I'm going to do inside of Q1 and Q2.
But you have to know what your year goal is, right? Your
Correct.
2020 goal to break down what you want to do a quarter.
If you got 3 goals for 2020, you might say, I'm not going to work on goals 2 and 3 at all in quarter 1 and quarter 2 because I'm all in on goal whatever. And so I think that's been my biggest shift is I felt this year there's really good goals. Overall, felt pretty good about it. But I was like, sometimes I felt lost as far as like, I'm not sure exactly what my next step is in this moment. And it's like you get caught for me, I was like, you just kind of get into it and you just focus on the day-to-day. And it's like, oh, wait, if I said ahead of time at the beginning of the year, this is what are the things I want to accomplish in Q3, obviously you can change, but then it helps give direction over like a little bit of a longer term when you're in this naturally like reflective state. Like, oh, okay, all these things I want to do. Like, okay, if I do these 3 things each quarter, then wow, that is a good thing. Okay, and then you kind of preset your quarter goals.
Do you want to put? You asked me if I want to put a goal on the record. I kind of forgot. I'm happy to do it. Do you want to wait till the end? Do you want to do it now?
Well, this could be the end. I mean, I think we've had a good conversation. So yeah, go for it.
I don't disagree. I think we need to dive a little bit into the book you're reading and how your kind of opinion or your thought process on goal setting has evolved.
Okay, we'll go on the record at the end. Talk to me about that, or I guess ask me whatever you're.
Yeah, well, I think importantly is like how we started out in the beginning. We had a couple ambitious goals this year.
Yeah.
That weren't necessarily realistic time frame to achieve them, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know that we're always constantly reading books and stuff, and I feel like you had an epiphany about honing your goal setting skill.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious if you can share.
Yeah, and so about this year, one thing I think the most exciting thing about this year is there were some like production goals that we didn't hit, but I think the most important one is like the ironing out of the system. I think overall, like, we're much set better to do anything we need to do next year based on the work we've put in this year about systems and processes. But for the book, it's called Scaling Up. It's by Jules Verne, I think it is. And
it was the Rockefeller one.
Rockefeller Habits, but the author is. So this was recommended to me, somebody I really respect, and it was good timing. It was like early December they recommended it to me, or maybe like end of November. And I'm not 100% done with it. But, yeah, it's breaking everything down. I mean, it's not a super long book, but it's just breaking things down. They have this it's a one page that captures everything that you're working on, like mission, vision statement, your big 5-10 year goal. And they talk about this whole thing as like everything needs to fit on one page, the top of Everest and all the way to base camp. And then you fill it in and you can kind of see what your steps are going. And so biggest change this year as far as, you'll see when we talk tomorrow during the planning session is trying to break everything down. And a lot of that is like breaking down the quarter goals now is from that book and just seeing how it plays out, because now is a naturally reflective state. You're doing all this thought process, and unless you capture it and try to delineate it as much as you can ahead of time, then it's going to get lost when you're in the middle of like just running through the year, which I think, again, we had a good year, but there's definitely like some projects we never got done. Yeah, and I was like reviewing that. I was like, simple one. We never put together a welcome package for our tenants really the way we wanted to.
I thought we did do that. I did that.
Oh, we did? So all right, perfect example of just like we were in it and just I didn't realize like we had like a really good one on a per house. Like,
I thought it was
your
good.
Utility information. I didn't realize we didn't. So never mind. I stand corrected.
I mean, I guess I'll bring it tomorrow and you can look at it. But it's like, oh, I thought I did that.
But case in point, right? Like that's one of those things that like, we'd have. So we meet every Tuesday morning. We have our rock meeting kind of based off of the book Traction. And that's one of those things that we need to do a better job of delineating in those meetings. Is like, hey, what are our good quarter goals that we've predetermined ahead of time that we want to get to, and then showing that checklist of like, yeah, wow, it's been a good year, or things like that. So,
okay. And what about timelines for like big audacious goals? Has your thought process on those changed?
Oh, yeah. So big Grant Cardone fan, but I've always struggled with the whole 10x everything in a 1 year. Like, maybe that's a great thing. Maybe it's not a good thing. I don't know, but the big, hairy, audacious goals, according to this book, and it just resonated with me, is those are goals that are, they say like 20 to 25 years out or whatnot. I was like, okay, I can't even think about 25 years from now, so I'm not going to go that. So for me, I was like, okay, what are like the big, hairy, audacious goals for like 3 to 5 years? And then set that those are the real big stretch goals. And then once you know what those really big stretch goals are, then the goals leading up into that moment are very clear action steps towards that, and that's, if that makes sense. So if you want to do, I'm trying to give it a good example, you want to buy 1,000 houses or something, or 100 houses, then your goal in year one isn't necessarily to buy 20 houses. It might be, connect with X amount of people who can lend money on him, or build really solid banking relationships with people so that you can borrow money quickly or effectively, et cetera. And so I think that thought process really helped. Is it doesn't necessarily, hey, here's my big goal divided by 5 and that's how you get there. It's not that. It's how do you build a very good solid base year over year that eventually grows to what you need it to be. And I think there's a big difference between, I want 100 houses divided by 5, that's 20 a year, versus, okay, like what team or things have to be in place to even manage that sort of volume. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's cool. What I was looking for.
So, what are you going on the record for?
My 2020 goal is to take my portfolio of 2 and take that to, I guess, 102.
102?
So I would like to add 100 doors to the portfolio in a big not individually in a big way.
Yeah.
As far as like, multi.
Yeah, no, that's something that is coming for both of us. That could be a joint thing, just hoping to put all the pieces in place to do something a little bit on the larger scale instead of just one-offs from a rental standpoint. So I'll join you on that. I'll jump right on that, and we'll see.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I feel confident. Maybe it should be bigger. Maybe we should be shooting for like 500, but I don't know.
I don't know. I think it's good. We can sit here a year from now and be like, should have been bigger. We hit it too quickly, or we didn't hit it at all.
Well, that's why I feel like it's good. It's like, I mean, if we hit that in February, then, by all means, not stopping.
Stay tuned. Goal recap 2020, end of December, and you can find out how that went. So, I'm excited about that. I know that's something we've put a lot of good energy and effort in. I think, for example, the last 6 months of this year, that's what we've been working towards.
Yeah.
And we've been laying this groundwork so that we could go into 2020 and like kind of just go all cylinders ago. So
yeah.
Cool, man. Well, as always, awesome chatting with you on the podcast. Thanks for everything you do behind the scenes.
I enjoyed it.
In front of the scenes. So cool. All right, guys. See you guys next Tuesday. Hope this was helpful. Let us know. What was the question? Is goal setting a skill or not a skill? Let us know. Send us a DM on Instagram or I don't know, anywhere else on YouTube. Leave a comment, etc. Take care. See you guys next Tuesday.